So we're going to kind of wrap it back up, and there's so many questions that we could go through, and it's unending. Okay, there seems to be a bit of a certain divides, and some people saying that question's important, not important, Calvin, Arminian. At the end of the day, how do we reconcile this discussion so that this community out here, myself, how do we move forward just loving Jesus, loving people, even though there are different views on things like this? This isn't just the only thing that we're going to divide on in life. There are plenty of things that we could see things differently. We could divide on a whole range of subjects, but does that mean we can't be unified under one name? Does that mean we can't work together to reach people for Christ? I mean, surely God wants us, across the globe to work together as churches, to, even though we have different theological backgrounds and understandings based on how we were brought up, how do we bring this around and go, you know what, at the end of the day, it's about Jesus? I mean, it's easy to say that, but how do we do that?
I think, let me clarify, I think it is an important question. I love that, sister in the corner. Pam. I love that. Theology morphs. Theology evolves. And I think it's the height of human arrogance and pompousness to basically say, in some of these areas of the non-essentials, that this is definitive. And because I know that I see the world differently. I interpret my theology differently. I see Jesus differently. And I think you would hope that you would see Jesus differently in 5 years' time from now. Because to use your analogy, a relationship which doesn't progress, that doesn't evolve, is a dead relationship. So let me say that. I think it's important that we do have stances on this. I really do believe that, Orlando. I really do believe that. I think that one of the great accusations that we find hard to retort as Christians is that in many ways we engage in life like one who's had an intellectual lobotomy. We can't reason our faith. The Bible tells us to give a reason for the hope that we have. But to do this with gentleness and respect, it says in Peter. And I think it's very important that no matter where you sit on the fence, and you got to take this with a grain of salt, and you got to just smell what I'm cooking here, but you need to have like a strong gut feeling which you can unpackage logically and reasonably. I think it's really important that we do that.
Certainly, and that's awesome. And I think the other thing we should, if I can just push on a little bit more, I think it's really important to take a stand to work out what you believe, but I also think we shouldn't, while I'm all for unity, and I'm totally all for that, and I think it's wonderful, we shouldn't be afraid to have vigorous conversation. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because we're Christians, we love each other. So this is the very reason why Dan can so easily in front of a whole group of people say, I disagree with that guy sitting next to me, and I've only met him tonight. It's because we know we're both Christians, we both love each other, and within the sphere of loving each other, we can have a vigorous discussion and disagree still. So the answer is not, let's just not talk about it and let's just pretend we all agree. That's not totally right. Yep. The answer is take a position, have a reason for your faith, and make sure you are able to vigorously debate that and not start then drawing dividing lines such that you can't talk to them anymore. There needs to be, love needs to overpower all of that, but not overpower such that we all become like robots that all kind of...
I like that. Yeah. That's great. Love overpowers it. Yeah, Rob.
Just to go back to your question about how we really kind of ground a discussion like this, I think where I go in my mind is, well, let's go with what we know. Let's by no means write off what the discussions about what we don't know, but let's focus for a second on what we do know.
That's good.
And one of the things that I know, and I can only speak for myself, but the Bible makes it very clear as well, is that you taste and then see that the Lord is good. So this is a bit of a personal thing, but I can spend too much time in here and not enough time in here.
Yeah.
And it's a hugely important thing, I think, to at a point bring that balance back between your head and your heart. And faith requires a conviction. It's, you know, it's being convinced of something that's unseen. That's the bottom line. As a Christian, you have to take that step of faith. And so knowing that you have to take that step of faith means that you can contextualize these intellectual issues that we don't have the answers to. Ultimately, I think you can relax a bit into faith and take that step back and go, I know enough, I'm convicted, I trust God, that, you know, he's revealed to me what he wants me to know. And how cool is it that I don't know everything, or he wouldn't be God, and you know, we'd be in a
That's
mess.
what makes him God, in one sense.
Yeah.
I think something I've been dwelling on is if it becomes a burden. I think when certain questions and discussions become a burden and it doesn't help you live out your faith, where you're actually troubled in your mind over something, you need to give it to God. And I guess because of time, I'm going to wrap it up. Is that okay, panelists? And I think let's give our panel a huge hand.